and welcome to episode 101 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
And I'm James Whittingham. This week we watched many electric vehicle ads during the Super Bowl on Sunday, that in spite of having tiny middle-aged man bladders.
And James has a shocking announcement about his search for an affordable EV. Will the announcement be that he's robbed a bank?
France plans to build 14 new nuclear reactors by 2050. Sources say C. Montgomery Burns is the leading candidate to supply them.
And finally, the Tesla Model Y outsells the Honda Civic in California and is nipping at the heels of the Toyota Camry. Said Toyota and Honda, what's a Tesla?
All that and more on this edition of the Clean Energy Show. Brian, I don't know what to tell you. I have no... I can't say it's cold out. I can't say it's warm out. I can't say happy Groundhog Day. I can't say happy post-Valentine's. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm good, too. I have nothing in my personal life other than what I'm going to talk about is my electric car story. So if you have anything to admit to the audience during your week of sin, what was it?
Well, this is exciting news. I bought a super automatic espresso machine.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so you really, truly are part of the elite now. These are what people are protesting about, is people like you.
I guess that's what that means. But as a preface to that, I was first introduced to super automatic espresso machines at 7-Eleven. So I don't know if that makes me elite. But
I was introduced to microwave hamburgers there. Doesn't mean it took off.
Well, back in the 1990s in our town, you could get these cappuccinos at 7-Eleven, and they had these super automatic espresso machines. So, and it was like a couple of bucks. But it was quite good. Like, it was surprisingly good. And apparently super automatic espresso machines were invented in the 80s. And then in the 90s, this apparently was a pilot project. I found out somehow, talking to somebody at 7-Eleven, that we had a pilot project in our town to test out these cappuccino machines at 7-Eleven. And they were there for quite a while, and I went to them regularly. And then one day it was out of order. And then a few months later, all the machines were gone. So the pilot project at the time in the 90s, failed. But anyway, super automatic espresso machines have been developing since then, and they're kind of getting better and better. And so I bought one. It makes 12 different fancy coffee drinks.
Okay, our listeners want to know this question before we get emails. How much was it?
I'd rather not say.
Aha, $1,200.
It's a Philips. It's a super automatic.
What does super automatic mean? You don't have to do anything?
You don't have to do anything except dump out the grounds every once in a while and refill the hopper with coffee beans. And then,
like once a week?
Yeah, something like that. And you do have to rinse it every once in a while. It's got a milk frother. You need to rinse the milk frother. But you can also press a button and it sort of steam cleans part of it.
Snap. I was close and the price is right. I have $13.99 Canadian. I should go on The Price is Right.
You're very good.
Hey, it's okay, kids. He has a lot of Tesla stock. Bought it for pennies. And now one of the wealthiest men in the world with a podcast who's not obnoxious. You look like I wasn't going to Google it. Come on. Everybody at home was Googling it. All our listeners were Googling it. I did it for them. Next week, Brian, I have an assignment for you. I want a soundbite of the espresso machine working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't think of that. That seems like it's a podcast. I mean, can't show pictures of it. So
yeah, it is a little loud. I will say that.
Well, you'll just have to set your levels low. So I have an eventful week in EV searching, Brian. And, we've been talking about this, like I said, for a year. James's big panic. The lease comes to an end and there's no affordable EVs around. What am I going to do? I've been playing around with things. And one day I just crunched numbers and I decided to buy, perhaps, if all worked out. Okay, first of all, let's back up here. We had to get a safety inspection done once a year on the Prius, which my wife drives for her work as a social worker, and which is the new car would be for her. We didn't want to do that because the lease is up and it costs a lot of money and they make you do a wheel balance unnecessarily and stuff like that. For one thing, I will point out this, we put on an odd tire and we didn't pass the safety inspection. I had to go buy a Canadian tire that matched the other three because one had blown because they're such cheap tires. Fortunately, the world knows this and they were on sale for $69. when I had to buy one, but I had to run out one day and do that. So when I went in there with my tire, I talked to the guy who was grumpy because he was from the Lexus filling in for people who had COVID. And the Lexus side, and he had to work in the parts department or the service department. And I said, I've got this Prius, and it's been listed for, the sticker price that it sold for 5 years ago on Toyota dealerships, not around the prairies. And he said, I said, what the hell? And he said, well, look at the lot. We have exactly 0 cars on our lot right now. And I do. And now I have them admitting it. 0. Not 1, not 2. None. They have no cars available. 0 new cars available. The car market is bananas. And because those cars aren't available, they said there's some that are going to take maybe a year and others that will come in a matter of a month or two, depending on the vehicle. But, it's still, the car market's screwy. And so now I believe that maybe my Prius would sell for a ridiculous markup. I've said last week that the buyout price was about $12,000. Well, now that we get down to the nitty gritty, I have to pay tax on that. And it's $14,000, which, pisses me off. I hate taxes in these situations. I feel like I already paid tax on the car, but not for the whole value.
Right.
So now it's $14,000. And I figured if I could make $10,000 off of it and buy, if anyone wants a Prius, give me a call. And by the way, I'm nervous about giving it back. So we have all that figured out. We're going to do write a certified check from our line of credit on our house, and we will just buy it outright with the intention of not carrying it for more than 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, so you would buy the car for about 14, but you should be able to sell it for 10 grand more.
Well, if we can, and if we can't, then I got to get a car loan. But I'm going to do my best to get an EV. My wife is set on having an EV because I've told her about the features and we've talked about it and watched videos. Here it is, the stunning announcement. Drum roll, please. It is the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt. Now, I poo-pooed the Bolt. Yeah. The Bolt had a lot of hype when it came out. Remember that? Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was excited about it. I remember having many conversations with you about it before we even had a podcast.
Yeah, it was one of the first kind of long-range vehicles aside from a Tesla.
Right, and supposedly affordable, but it sold for quite a bit. But then they dropped the price by $5,000 for the 2022 model. And, yeah, they've had recalls on everything. Well, first of all, I started looking at this car in a small town a couple of hours away that I could probably go to and get a used Bolt for $33,000 listed. It's been sitting there since summer. It's a 19. It has almost no kilometers on it. And I know that it will have its battery replaced with the new one, which will actually up the range by 30. It's not insignificant. It's like 37 kilometers range more with the new batteries. As you know, coming back to your driveway at 0, every kilometer matters in range and miles. So we live in a cold climate here where we are, and it's bloody important. So I've been looking at this, and I don't know. What do you think? It's kind of a small car, but it's kind of like big on the inside. They say it's similar to like a Soul overall, high up off the ground.
It's not huge, but that's a capable car. I think that would probably do you for most of your use that you need it for. 417
kilometers of range. That's rivaling what you have. But you've got the supercharger network, and even then, you ran into problems with the headwind and it's cold, right?
Yeah, and a slower charging speed, I think, for the Bolt. So
way slower. That's the one compromise I would say is the charging speed is quite slow. It's better because it's we have a big battery on it, so it's got a good sized battery. It's relatively efficient. I looked at it in its efficiency compared to other cars, and it's up there. It actually does a pretty good job of efficiency. I don't think we've ever given it credit for that on the show before. So a one-day trip to Calgary in the Model 3 long range, that's not what you have. This is the long range in cold weather would be an hour and 10 minutes charging. But in this car, on a minus 15 degree day with no headwind, not even including wind, it would be 3 hours. It'd be 3 times that. It'd be 3. That's really hard. If you're making a day trip, you have to add 3 hours of stoppage in there. I can add an hour easily.
And you do this trip in the winter sometimes?
It's been done. And we just went to Edmonton for the heck of it. I mean, that was winter. So my conclusion, and the reason that I got cold feet yesterday, was winter. Winter road trips, as we've come to learn gradually through your experiences here on the show with your Tesla Model 3 standard range, is tough because your range gets cut and your charging speed slows down with the cold batteries. So, and then the dense winter air reduces your range and all that, and slush on this highway surface.
Yeah, and there's not a whole charging network in place that's eventually going to be there. The Tesla one's pretty good. The third-party network is pretty spotty. So eventually there'll be chargers every 50 kilometers or so, which, will make you less nervous. But of course, it'll still be kind of a long charge time.
Yeah, it makes it difficult to go in the wintertime. Now, I was starting to think, well, okay, if we go to the Stockton estate in the summertime, what would that be like? Then I realized we take the SUV there because we pack up all the bikes and kayaks and garbage and whatnot into the SUV. We played it for a week. And we do that when we go to the mountains because we want our bikes in the mountains. So, and we bring a lot of crap with us, especially if we're camping, and sometimes a trailer. So maybe the SUV, the gas SUV sort of covers that. It's getting pretty old now. It's really old, but might need some brake work as well. So I don't know. That's my thinking. So I'm going to have a hard time recommending EVs to people because you want that car. You may not use people say, well, you use it once a year for a trip like that, and you can just rent a car. Well, fine. But when you buy a car, there's that freedom to know that you could go on that trip. You have a new car. It's mechanically sound. It's safe. And the world is your oyster as far as road trips are concerned. Even if you don't do them, you'd like to know that you could. And in winter, it's hard for EVs. And this is something that I've coming to terms with. Now, in the city, it's a different story. In the city, EVs are wonderful because you have plenty of range, more range than you'll ever need. You'll only charge at home. Like this car, we could charge it every couple of days at -40. It's still going to be good enough. It's just you can turn it on at the grocery store with your app and heat it without turning on the car. My wife loves that. We don't have remote start in any of our cars. So not a good place to live and not have remote start. So that's a good thing. And I don't know. It's just, no, I still might end up buying a used one because I can't make it happen. I can't sell. I don't think a dealership's going to give me $10,000 as an extra as a trade-in. They might, but as long as they can make $4,000 off it, I suppose they might. But it's going to be up to me to try and profit on it on my own and then go looking for one. And I might have to go a long way because Brian, today, by the way, before I go back to you, they just announced that they're going to restart on April 4th, I think, the reproduction of these, which means it'll be May before we see one.
Yeah. Back in stock sometime in May. Yeah.
Which is too bad. However, they will have the new batteries in them, and they won't have to replace them. So I've seen a video of them replacing them. It's actually quite simple. I thought it'd be quite complicated, but it's actually quite simple. They just have a little thing that goes underneath, pulls it down. They unhook a few bulbs or a few cords. And one thing I learned, which was interesting, and I've never realized this before, is that there's a pyrotechnic device that disconnects the battery. You know how pyrotechnics set off your seatbelt tightening and airbags? Well, there's one to disconnect the battery, too. A charge goes to it and poof, disconnects it.
Really?
Instantly, yes. So I did not know that.
That's wild.
It is wild. An EV fact. It's right here on the Clean Energy Show. Tune in weekly for more information. I'll put that on TikTok. It'd be a good, useful thing on TikTok. Don't you think, TikTok? That was useful.
TikTok will love it.
Now go back to your cat videos. I'm not sure what it's a horrible thing, Brian. The car market is screwy, but I, on the other hand, if I kept the Prius, so people have been writing in and giving me advice. If I kept the Prius, maybe I'd be turning away 10 grand profit that I could finally get me into an EV, like this might be my day to get into an EV because it does cost more.
Yeah. And there are consignment lots where you can sell it, where you can get someone else to do the work. And so that's an option.
Interesting. And would they take care of the paperwork and everything?
Yeah, it's kind of like you tell them how much you want for the car. You come up with a price, and then they put it on the lot, and they add whatever they want their cut to be on top of that, and they do all the work. So that you should look into that.
All right, I'll do that. That's good advice. So there's lots. We've looked at this car, all kinds of reviews, and Yeah, the app preheats the car at 20-minute intervals. It could do that twice, which is interesting because the Leaf that I have, the 2013 Leaf, it preheats for up to 2 hours. And when the cold weather, it will actually do that. So I actually set it so it doesn't do that. Because you get in there and the surface is like 80 degrees. Like everything has been thoroughly cooked. It's unnecessarily warm. So I set it pretending that I'm leaving it at a later time. We're happy to not have any more gas engines. My wife is, at first I thought she would sort of back away when I told her the downsides. And she said, no, I don't want any more gas cars. So she's on board for this. And
well, it sounds like it would cover 99% of your trips.
Yes. And I suppose we could just pay, instead of renting a car, we could just pay more gas for the SUV and have our own car, and a big one too. I mean, it's a lot of gas because it's premium gas. But it'd probably be more efficient without kayaks and bikes on it if we're going somewhere in the wintertime. So the app, there's got a really nice My Chevy app. It's you can see your tire pressure. And you can do some interesting time of day charging too. Really customizable for, like, say you have time of day pricing and it's really cheap after midnight, because you and I both got smart meters last week. That's another piece of breaking news. And you didn't tell me.
They came around.
I told you that the guy was coming. You didn't tell me. This is big news. I've been wanting a smart meter for years for my solar. And now they just gave me an hour's notice and swapped it out.
So, yeah, we're hoping in the future this will give us time of day pricing, which we don't have right now. So it is costing me quite a lot to charge the car because it's the same price all the time. And lower pricing overnight would be amazing.
Yeah, so there would be demand charging where they would charge you more from, say, 4 to 7 p.m. or something like that, and less after midnight until 6 a.m. or something like that. It varies by region. Potentially, I mean, we pay 14 cents a kilowatt around the clock. Pretty decent price as far as, grid prices go. Pretty average for North America. California's a lot more. Some other places are a lot more. But, imagine it, it would cost about $7 to fill this car from, say, 20 to 80%. $7. That's typically how you would charge it, is, either less, at the most it'd be 20 to 80%. And because you don't want to hurt the battery by keeping it at 100. But I like this car because you can customize what you want. But you can also say, hey, I am going to charge overnight, but I want to make sure if James has a heart attack, we can get to the hospital in the evening. And so you put in some charge. You say, I want it at least this charged. And then after midnight, it'll finish it, which is, pretty smart. And it has navigation that has Chevy navigation through the app, where it will take in weather considerations and elevation. And I thought, hey, that's Tesla advanced. That's really nice. I didn't expect that. So I was really impressed.
Does it have a built-in defibrillator so you can start your heart when you're on your way to the hospital?
No, you stick your tongue on the charging port. That's basic procedure for that. So it's got Android Auto. So we haven't had that before. They're actually throwing in a power driver's seat and much better seats. Not perfect, not great seats, but much better than the last model. The seats were problematic on the last model. And the big disappointment, Brian, is that it has new adaptive cruise control. If I could fork up a couple extra grand or so, I could probably get the EUV, which comes with that stuff. It will add blind spot warning, cross-traffic alert, and parking alert and stuff like that. Like I said, it has got 10 years of the app control, which is nice because I don't want to get charged for that. The slow charging is only 55 kilowatts. It's got actually pretty fast highway charging up to 11 kilowatts. Not that that matters too much, but that turns out to be 65 kilometers an hour, 40 miles an hour.
Oh, so that's like in your driveway. In your
driveway level 2, yeah. So it's 11 kilowatts at level 2, which isn't far from the level 3, unfortunately. It's got an 8-year battery warranty. Like I said, it's got a higher ground clearance. It's front-wheel drive, which is a little better for the snow, lots of headroom. It seems like it should be pretty roomy in the back seats to get... it's got lots of legroom in the back seat, actually, probably more than the Prius. So, it should be okay for the car seats that my wife has to put in for her clients at her job. So I don't know. What do you think, Brian? What do you think? Am I crazy?
Well, yes, you're crazy, but that doesn't mean it's not a good car for you.
It's supposed to be the most affordable EV out there, that and the Leaf. Of course, the Leaf is got a minuscule range. I think you have to buy the super deluxe model to get 360 kilometers of range, and then the fast charging is problematic because it doesn't have liquid-cooled heating. This is one of the things they did when they took the battery out is they had to refill the little reservoir for the battery heating and cooling, so it's got its own loop for that. I think it might even have a cooling loop and a heating loop, and then there's a loop that goes to the... It doesn't have a... People might wonder if it has a heat pump. It does not. But I'm happy with that. My feeling is that the heat pump is used not often here because I feel it's either like room temperature or warm, or it's minus 15 or colder. You know, it's like we swing back and forth, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of intermediate. And when there is intermediate, it can be like 0 degrees. It can be freezing in March. But if the sun's out, my heater's not even on. So let it use some electricity from the solar panels to heat the car. Brian, this past Sunday was Super Bowl Sunday. What did you eat for snacks?
Well, I'm not typically a Super Bowl person, so
what?
No snacks, no Super Bowl.
Do you know what I did? I'm not usually a big NFL fan, but my son was home for a couple months, and we decided to watch it to take our mind off the world, because there's lots to take your mind off. Yeah. More and more. We can't all read newspapers from around the world like you and have espresso machines that cost $1,400. Thank you. That's almost as much as a used EV. Yeah, so the playoff games were some of the best football games ever played. There was a couple of games there that were just amazing. So the Super Bowl was boring, and I knew it was going to be boring. Well, everybody in the world knew it was going to be boring. But it was still a close game, but it was... And then people don't realize this in Canada, we have our own commercials. They actually passed a government law a few years ago so that we could watch the American commercials during the Super Bowl. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we have a thing in Canada where the Canadian broadcasters are allowed to play American shows, but then they're also allowed to sub in Canadian commercials. So for many, many years, we couldn't watch the Super Bowl commercials here. So it was a big deal when finally we were allowed to watch the Super Bowl commercials from the U.S.
And now we're not. So we have to watch them on YouTube. There was a couple commercials that, you know, if the automakers or whoever is advertising wants to buy Canadian airtime too, which usually they don't care about. They're just, you know, they're focusing on this big bang from the Super Bowl in the States. So they usually don't care about it. I did see a couple. So I went to the internet and watched them. Have you watched many of them?
Yeah, I watched them all.
Okay. Well, I've got some information from cars.com. It says this year's Super Bowl featured twice as many automotive commercials as last year. In fact, there was a total of 7 brands highlighting 8 commercials. Most of them showcased an electric car. Can you guess the brand that had a commercial that did not showcase an electric car? You have 3 seconds.
Toyota.
You're correct. Sadly correct. Hardly a skill testing question.
But since these other brands are not necessarily producing that many electric cars, Toyota might be doing the smart thing by not featuring electric cars.
I think it makes them look, you watch, you say, oh, Martha, electric cars are here. Is that Toyota thing an electric car? No, it's got a tailpipe. I guess Toyota's behind the times. Well, you'd be correct, sir. You'd be correct. So Cars.com said there was a 2,361% increase in visits to pages for the specific makes and models featured during the big game. So overall, effective, most of which were EVs. Polestar had a weird ad. Do you want to describe that ad?
Well, it was all text and pictures. And I don't know, they were just kind of taking pot shots at everybody.
They were taking pot shots. And who did they take a pot shot at? Elon Musk. He said, no greenwashing, no emission scandals, taking a shot at VW, and no Mars missions or something like that, right?
Yeah, no conquering Mars. They're just going to focus on cars.
I thought it was attention-getting. Was it effective?
I guess so. I mean, it's hard to say because we're interested in everything EV, so...
Well, what was your favorite ad then? Let's go there.
Well, I liked the Nissan one with Eugene Levy, which only very briefly, I didn't even realize it at first, but only at the very end does it feature an EV, the Nissan Ariya.
Yeah.
Most of the ad is about the Z Roadster car, which is a gasoline-powered car. And Eugene Levy is always funny. Catherine O'Hara makes a quick little appearance and is hysterical.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they're all coming out of a movie premiere and they hop into a Nissan Ariya, but it happens so quickly you can barely tell what it is. And then there's tiny, tiny fine print that says the Nissan Ariya is not for sale.
Thank you, Japanese auto industry. Well, guess what was the most popular one? It was the Kia commercial that featured sort of a cuteness factor with a lost electric puppy chasing its owner, who was driving a Kia EV6. And they sort of had a lame way of showing off their vehicle to load capacity because the puppy goes dead at the end. They have to revive it by plugging it into the vehicle, which seemed like confusing to me, to an average person, I'm sure. What's going on there?
Yeah, of course, the Kia and the Hyundai are known for EV to load, meaning you can charge other cars or charge other objects or run your snowblower or whatever off the car.
Now, you literally could do this, but this is the fantasy of the Super Bowl. So maybe you just plug it into the gas tank and the puppy comes back to life off of fumes. I don't know. But it got 921% increase. The next one was the BMW Zeus and Hera electric-themed commercial promoted by the BMW iX.
I figure you could use a little pick-me-up.
All electric?
All electric.
The BMW iX. Electricity in its ultimate form.
Electric
Avenue.
We take it higher.
That, of course.
The ultimate electric driving machine.
That, of course, is Arnold Schwarzenegger and Salma Hayek. Yeah, he retires. Everyone wants electricity from him. He gets annoyed. And inexplicably, his wife comes home with an EV, the BMW, and he's happy. So, I don't know. Toyota features the Tundra with multiple celebrities in a boo. Nissan, like you said, it had 120% interest. You know what it is about that dog thing? It's the kids. Kids are going to the internet and looking around, I bet, after they saw that.
I hear kids are all over the internet.
Oh, it's true. They're everywhere. 58% was GM's Chevy recreated the classic Sopranos commercial. That is my favorite. Do you have any qualms with that commercial?
Well, it didn't really resonate with me because I haven't watched The Sopranos in a long time.
Well, neither have I, man.
I wasn't
I did watch the movie
with
reboot.
Which, yeah, I didn't watch that.
So maybe that.
So to me, it was just like watching this. Like they recreated the opening, but it didn't seem like a commercial. It just seemed like, oh, I'm watching The Sopranos now.
Yeah, but people would like, what's this? I mean, David Chase directed it. You got the original cinematographer. They matched it. They updated every shot, and they had Meadow Soprano, the daughter of Tony Soprano, driving, replicating what he was doing, except instead of smoking a cigar, she sucked on a lollipop and had a bracelet smaller than Tony's. And then she goes and meets her brother at a restaurant by the wharf, and that's supposed to be mysterious too. Why are they there? So both the actors revived their roles, and I thought it was cool.
And this is for the Chevy Silverado
pickup truck
EV, which is not out yet.
No, it's not out yet. But I thought it was a cool commercial because it created mystique and interest, and she plugs in the Silverado and goes and hugs her brother at the end.
The first ever all-electric Chevy Silverado. A whole new truck for a whole new generation.
But one of the other ones that I'm surprised had actually the lowest uptake is probably because it was General to General Motors in general. That was really one hell of a sentence there, James. So GM's corporate brand leaned on the nostalgia of Austin Powers' Dr. Evil, played by Mike Myers, putting the GM Hummer EV, electric Silverado, and Cadillac Lyriq, which are all competent vehicles, from the company's EV lineup center stage. So I don't think they mentioned them. They just mentioned the platform.
Ladies and gentlemen, our takeover of General Motors is complete.
Dr. Evil, we can now use GM's Ultium platform to power our whole operation.
Now we can reduce tailpipe emissions.
I'm sorry, am I no longer Dr. Evil? I'm Dr. Good now? I didn't get the meme.
Climate change is arguably the #1 threat to the world now.
Dr. Evil, you are now the #2 threat to the world.
I refuse to be number two.
Yeah. I thought it was okay. It's not It's not, I don't think people would, 30 seconds later forget that they saw an EV commercial if they even knew they did.
No, it almost feels like an ad for the next, Austin Powers movie. Like it just like the other one is like, oh, I'm watching The Sopranos now. It's like, oh, it's the next episode in the, Dr. Evil Austin Powers. Hey, I'd love to see another one of those movies, but it didn't interest me in the cars necessarily.
Brian, you have to be more engaged. And by the way, I saw Power of the Dog. Pretty good movie.
Yeah.
This is the one you went to Saskatoon to see. And
yeah. I thought it was okay.
I thought it could have been better, but it was a really good movie, and I really enjoyed it. Kind of one of those movies that surprises you. Here's another thing, Brian. Wallbox, who I've never heard of. Have you heard of Wallbox before this?
No.
They had a commercial for an EV home charger, and it was somewhat controversial. Why, you ask? Because in it, there's a security cam footage of a man parking his motorcycle and walking into his house and getting struck by lightning. For real. This is a real thing, and some people who are traumatized by events say they didn't like it because it was making fun of people who have had traumatic events. I've never been struck by lightning.
Actual footage of this guy getting struck by lightning.
Big flash, guy sort of drops to the ground. He says, "Yeah, that's me. I was struck by lightning in 2012."
Maybe it was Arnold Schwarzenegger from that other commercial.
Maybe it was. It just seemed like a bad commercial to me, but it was odd that an electric vehicle home charging company would be advertised. I went to their website. I ended up in a different language accidentally and unintentionally. It was my language, and then I did a search, and I ended up in a different language. So they don't seem to have their operation together. Yeah, it was supposed to be funny, and the guy was scared of electricity, but I'm not scared of the Wallbox. It was kind of stupid. I'm sorry it was stupid. There, I said it. So yeah, he was from Durham, North Carolina, struck by lightning. A lightning strike survivor. Have you ever been struck by lightning?
No.
My neighbor's house, we used to live on a 3-house street called a place, Mayor Place. My neighbor's house was struck twice by lightning. I mean, the odds of that, God, I told him God must be angry. And he said, no, because he was an old Catholic. He refused to believe that. Well, also at the beginning of the Super Bowl, one more thing. If you were looking closely, there was a video introduction to the Super Bowl, one of these stupid things that you might see at the beginning of the Oscars, except it's the Super Bowl. And Halle Berry is shooting a car commercial in a Mach-E, and then she gets out and starts talking about Hollywood and transfers that to the NFL and how great everything is and how you should watch and care. But they actually blocked out the Mach-E logos, I guess. So, yeah, I looked at that, and it was very subtle.
Yeah, they just wanted some kind of a cool car, but Ford didn't pay anything, so...
But that is the, electric cars are here. People were quite happy in the electric car community that the Super Bowl was dominated and everybody's talking about them.
Well, you would definitely get the impression, watching all those ads in the Super Bowl, that electric cars are here.
This is the Clean Energy Show.
All right, so The Guardian is reporting that France has plans to build 14 nuclear reactors by 2050, and they're doing this to make the country carbon neutral by 2050. This is their plan. France has a history of nuclear power. It already provides about 70% of electricity in France, so it's part of their brand, I guess, in France. They're big on nuclear power. Nuclear power and cigarettes, I guess that's the brand in France. But here's the part of the story that sort of set me off kind of toward the end of it here. He said that France has no choice but to rely on renewables and nuclear, and that the country would also have to consume significantly less energy in the next decades. And of course, if he'd been paying attention and listening to the Clean Energy Show, he would know that our energy use is going to be going up. It's not going to be going down. But if it's all clean energy, then, we don't have to worry about that. But, as more clean, cheap energy comes online, and as all of our cars go electric, for instance, and as we switch to heat pump heating in our homes, we're not going to be using less. We're going to be using more.
Macron, you're incorrect. The problem is he doesn't speak English.
Oh,
it's a language barrier, Brian.
So we need to do a French language version of the podcast just for him.
Pay someone to translate it. The people who do movies, will just send our podcasts over there, and the guy who played me in Wolf Cop for the French translation can do me here because he did a better job than I did. So,
Man, that hurts.
It hurts a lot. I think that the price tag is ridiculously high. It's $57 billion. The earliest, and this is a freaking fantasy, people, the earliest is 2035 that one of these babies could go online. And guess what? If your house is on fire, do you say, yeah, let's build some new firehouses and, we'll put the funding and zoning together for that? No, you start building out right now. And you're right, he is wrong. Electricity consumption is not going down. A lot of this has to do with the Russian energy influence over there, and I don't blame them, and they trust nuclear until one day they don't.
The electricity use is going to start going up way before 2035, yes. So this is not going to help them 5 years from now. They're really going to need it.
Brian, I'm not a smart man. I haven't invented a rocket lately. How come I know this and they don't? I don't understand. And it's not like I've done my own research like these idiots with the blockade who have gone on Facebook and went to fake news websites that make money off their sorry asses by, offering them ads. I know that the trends from legitimate studies, study after study, and credible newspapers and peer-reviewed stuff says that it's going down, and I've got more on that later. And then it's the question of battery supply. When we ever catch up with the battery supply, I know people they can't just say solar and a whole bunch of batteries. That doesn't make any sense. No, we have to build nuclear. Batteries don't work. I mean, not on this scale. They don't have that imagination yet. It's slowly creeping into their decisions and policy making, and yeah, we're a ways away from that, from mass chemical battery, storage, and there's other forms of storage too, like pumped hydro and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a waste of freaking money. I would be pissed off if I was a citizen of the country of France, as good a country as it is, and I would like to visit there someday. I've not. If anybody wants to fly me there, I would enjoy your baguettes. I did a directive studies with a film prof once who took off in the middle of my directive study class. It was just me and him. And I was doing my own research, and he took off, went to Paris, and he sent me a postcard with my grade on it of him somebody eating a baguette. Here's your grade and a postcard. It was an A.
That's nice. That's better than I do for my students.
Drive Tesla Canada has some information about auto sales in California.
Yeah, and this has been reported elsewhere as well, but the Tesla Model Y now outsells the Honda Civic in California. So the 2021 sales figures are out. So for the full year of 2021 in California, the number one car was the Toyota Camry, and then just about 1,000 units behind is the Tesla Model Y, followed by the Honda Civic, the Toyota RAV4, and then the Tesla Model 3 at the number 5 position. So Tesla with 2 out of the 5 top-selling cars in California. And I would imagine if they had any brains, that would make Toyota and Honda very nervous.
Somebody at Toyota has got to be looking at this. I mean, hello, Toyota. This is the writing that is on the wall. It's currently on my laptop screen, but it's on the wall. You know what I'm saying? This is the writing on the wall right here. I'm looking at it.
So we need to do a Japanese translation of the podcast. So that
there was a Japanese translation of that same film, and I couldn't quite judge because Japanese is so different. If the guy was better than me, I assume he was. Brian, the difference between the Model Y and the Camry is a lot of money because the Tesla doesn't have the tax break anymore in the States. You'll have the California tax break of and the Camry is going to be a lot cheaper. And I would assume the Y is bigger too. I mean, it's more SUV-ish.
Oh, yeah, I think it's bigger. But yeah, with 2 out of the 5 cars on the list, Tesla is probably pulling in the most money, because they're more expensive cars.
Yeah, of course, the Toyota would look at the RAV4 being in the number 4 spot, but that RAV4 Prime is probably being included with those numbers because that's the only place where they're selling them pretty much. And then the Model 3 is number 5. So But if you look at that, the Tesla is, is displacing the Japanese automakers who are traditionally holding the number one spots in California, where they're not selling pickup trucks as much as other places. So that's very interesting. And Toyota, call me. Brian, it's now a time for an exciting edition of What Do You Think?
What do you think?
This is the segment where I ask you, Brian Stockton, what do you think about things that I'm just not sure about in the week's news of clean energy and transportation? So it says here that a study in Nature, well, it was published as a comment, not as a peer-reviewed study, but I don't know what that means in the scientific world. In Nature Electronics, it says that the hydrogen fuel cell opportunity window has passed for cars and is diminished for trucks, and improvements to range and charging capability of battery electric vehicles have canceled out the main selling points of fuel cell vehicles. You and I have talked about this a lot, and we're not scientists. Have you ever been published in Nature in any way? Anything? Any film?
No.
Nothing, me neither.
No.
Policymakers should now have focus of all their efforts on promoting EVs, he argues, in this so-called comment. So EVs have already proliferated more quickly than fuel cell vehicles, the study notes. At the beginning of 2021, there was about 25,000 fuel cell passenger cars on the road. Two models on sale, the Hyundai Nexo, which I've never said before on the show, and the Toyota Mirai, which exists, but no one likes. I saw someone trying to fill it, $100 to fill in California. Two fuel cell charging stations were operational out of 4 in California that day, and they had to pay $100. I don't see what's so sexy about that. I would rather it takes 10 minutes to charge for $100 or charge at home for $7, or in California's case, $14. So.
This was an open question maybe 10 years ago, but it's now settled. And we settled it right here on the podcast.
We did. We said a lot of things here. Policymakers should be listening to our show. Heads of state, governments, dictators should all be listening to us. Although we're big in Saudi Arabia, I still can't figure that out. Because, I'm sorry. Is it the Crown Prince that's listening to us? And all his wives? I mean, how does that work?
And we still haven't heard from any listeners in Saudi Arabia, so if you're out there, please send us a message.
Maybe. Not a bad message, like a nice message, one with money in it. Elon Musk links Tesla's current legal and regulatory troubles to its disruptiveness. There's a word I can't say. Disruptiveness. Okay. Lack of ads and political contributions. Comments from you, Brian Stockton. Your opinion.
Well, there's probably some truth to it, but yeah, there's been a sort of a rash of Tesla recalls lately, although most of them are just kind of software updates. But it's true, Tesla kind of doesn't play the same game as everybody else. As a Tesla shareholder, sometimes I kind of wish that they would. If you're just going to make the government angry all the time, which Musk likes to do, it could end up hurting the company at some point. You want those people on your side to some degree. But, there's some truth to it. But, these are all legitimate issues, particularly like, the recall in Canada of the heat pumps in some of the Tesla cars that do not work at minus 40. So, it's all a bit of a, I don't know. It's a bit of a Twitter feud more than anything.
Yeah. Okay. So 78% of people in the UK support their 2050 net zero target. Only 4% oppose it, which is amazing, Ryan. It's almost hard to believe. So for comparison, support for keeping the monarchy is only 61%, 24% against. I mean, the Queen's, shaking in her boots right now. And support for being in NATO is only 60% and 25% against. So that is, people in the UK are not screwing around with the climate. I wish it was that way here.
Yeah, that's amazing.
At least in the United States, I wish there was more climate consensus there. But people, they get the news from Facebook. I'm telling you. Elon Musk might have actually followed through with a supposedly world hunger ending donation that he talked about. He questioned last year as Tesla reveals he donated billions of dollars worth of shares over to a charity in the last few months. What do you think of this? Is this news to you?
Yeah. It's interesting. It has not been revealed exactly what the charity is, but the speculation right now that it is possibly somebody who contacted him on Twitter and said, hey, we do have a plan. Musk said we need to have open public accounting for all this so that everybody can see where the money is being spent. Because I don't know, people kind of act like it's easy to solve world hunger, but if it's so easy, why haven't we done it before?
Agreed.
So everyone was, kind of blaming Musk for world hunger. And complaining on Twitter that the world's richest man could end world hunger. And he said, sure, I'll do it if you can prove to me. So anyway, I don't know. We'll see if it'll be revealed hopefully soon who this charity is, but it is possible it's a world hunger solution.
And finally, and what do you think? What do you think about the rumors that the Tesla Gigafactory in China may be a second one happening? That's getting to be more and more real.
Yeah, it seems likely. There's been sort of rumors of a second factory in China for a while. And I would expect that they're going to start on that soon.
What do you think?
Another edition of What Do You Think? Let's dip into the mailbag, Brian, this week. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so it says, hey, I'm not related. This is not related to the show, but you guys were talking about your Prius and coming off of lease. Not sure how it works in Canada, but in the States, you could generally buy the car from the leasing company at the end of the lease, not the dealership. Oh, well, that's interesting. And the lease buyout price is usually set in the contract, which I believe it was. That being said, the lease buyout price is likely better than anything you'll find on the dealer lot right now. And it may just be wise to buy the car after the lease and drive it until the market is available for the PHEV and BEV you want. And I think we are done with PHEVs here in this household. It says Godspeed, Jay. Thank you, Jay. Another one, just wanted to congratulate you guys on your 100th episode. I've enjoyed listening to at least half of them. Now, Brian, does that mean that he's listened to all of them and only enjoyed half of them, or he's gotten around to listening to half of them and really enjoyed them?
Probably only enjoys maybe the even-numbered ones, something like that.
The even-numbered ones are better, I think. Hoping you become a viral success, and I'm not talking about Omicron. Keep up the good work, Eric. Thank you, Eric. We like to hear from you on the Clean Energy Show. You can contact us at cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. That is our email address. Our handle on TikTok and Twitter and elsewhere is Clean Energy Pod. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for special features. We're there as well. And you can leave us a voicemail, as always, at speakpipe.com/Clean Energy Show. It is time for the lightning round. I do enjoy a good lightning round, Brian. Let's see here. Lincoln will debut 5 new electric SUVs by 2026. This is something you can take to the bank, Brian. It's legit. Anyway, I'll move on. U.S. Department of Transportation and Department of Energy have announced a $5 billion plan to have 5 years of national EV charging network points installed. Happy or no?
Yeah, more chargers. Always good.
Through its new climate change strategy, the U.S. Army intends to slash emissions. That means maybe not firing things into the air without compromising readiness. So it will use microgrids powered by solar and EVs in its fleet to hit a net zero by 2050. So yes, the U.S. Army is a big, massive organization, you may recall.
I mean, imagine they have one of the biggest budgets of any organization, probably bigger than most countries, I would think.
Yes, we should work for them as green energy consultants and do an Army podcast, like just for the soldiers.
Radio Free America.
With Brian and James. Poland's plans to build 5 new gas power plants is stupid. Okay, because it will cost more than investments into renewables, but no, they've decided to build 5 new gas power plants. The financial think tank Carbon Tracker has announced that they've studied it, and it's a waste of money. You could go green. But again, it seems that Poland doesn't listen to our podcast.
No, and they just built a $750 million natural gas power plant right here in our province.
No, they're idiots. We're the dumbest of the dumb here. So Kia EV6 gets nearly $19,000 in markups at an Illinois dealership. We were talking about a $10,000 markup on a on a Hyundai Ioniq 5, and now they've gone to 20,000 almost. That's just evil, evil, evil. I mean, I feel for dealerships, but, don't be evil. Because, you're in trouble, but you're not going to make any friends. Ford is exploring India as a possible hub to manufacture EVs for export, following a recent halt to sales in the country. So that is an interesting thing. Like, they're talking about building a factory there, and I wonder if Tesla might one day too. Yeah,
we're expecting lots of developments from India by the time this podcast ends in the year 2030. Lots is going to happen, I think.
Wisconsin's public utility companies are now pressuring members of the Wisconsin legislature to pass a bill that would ban government entities from owning or leasing EV chargers. They don't want the government to have anything to do with EV chargers because Wisconsin. So they want the utility companies to have it, and they don't want, the government to have like a private solar farm and start selling electric vehicle charging to people without them giving a take on it. So, I don't know what to say. What else?
Sounds like a racket.
It's a racket. It's a racket. The whole United States, you got so many rackets. 1,000 new Volta Level 3 EV chargers are coming to Walgreens stores in the United States. So you can get your condoms and charge while you plug in. I don't know what the young people buy it. I know what we buy. We buy things to keep us alive. Many drugs. Stellantis, their Ram pickup truck, Autoblog reports that in addition to the battery electric version of its light-duty pickup truck that is scheduled to arrive in 2024, it will also offer a version of that truck with a range extender engine, much like the BMW i3 had a little range extension. Some people are saying maybe this isn't so crazy because you got to tow things and businesses have demands and it might work out. From CBC News, Ontario's quest to replace, this is brand new, hot off the press. Ontario's quest to replace coal-fed coke oven blast furnaces at their steel mills in Hamilton has got a major boost on Tuesday, with the province contributing $500 million, $500 million from the Canadian government to, it's in loan and grant support. It's not all grant, it's partially loan. So the Hamilton's DeFasco? Yeah. The Hamilton plant will be among the first in their global operations to replace blast furnaces with electric arc furnaces. And the bottom line is this, it says the CEO, if the car of the future is going to be electric, then the steel it's made from needs to be electric too. I thought that was a very interesting quote.
Maybe he watched the Super Bowl.
That's our time for this week. We thank you for listening. Rate and review us wherever you get the show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get weekly episodes every Wednesday. It's been great talking with you. I'm James. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.